Hey everyone, it's Kaitlin and welcome back to Bandit and Cass. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of bullet journal spreads for back to school season. I have a ton of spreads I'll be taking you through today, such as my semester due date tracker, a student monthly bullet journal setup, and a student weekly bullet journal setup. So grab yourself a cozy beverage, your bullet journal, and let's get organized. The first three spreads that we're going to be setting up are all really great things to set up at the beginning of the semester. Whenever I start a new semester or school year, I always like to sit down in my bullet journal and create a spread with my timetable for the upcoming 3 months. I'm starting this spread by writing fall timetable in brush calligraphy. Here I'm using the Tombow Funosuke hard tip brush pen, and that is my favorite for doing lettering in my bullet journal. Of course, I will link all my supplies in the description, but any lettering that you see in this video will be done with that pen. Now, every fall timetable I've ever seen has always had a column for every day of the week from Monday to Friday, which is what I'm doing here. And on the left side of each column for the week, I'm writing the numbers 8 till 9 so that I have space to write in my schedule. I'm leaving a gap between each number so that I have a box for both the hour and the half hour mark, because I found in my undergrad that I would have classes starting on the half hour and the hour. So by having these spaces, I can write down exactly when my classes start and stop. I decided to make the 6th column on the far right a spot for notes. Currently, I'm actually in a master's program, but when I was in my undergrad, I always found that my science labs and other classes wouldn't happen every single week, and I'd always forget when stuff happened, and having a spot for me to write down notes about when labs and tutorials would be going on was always really helpful for me to keep track of where I had to be and when. Since we are all going to be learning from home this semester, myself included, I also thought a great thing to add to the spread would be a stop working section, or you could even write down when you want to study during the week so you have some blocked out time to dedicate to school, and then you also know what part of the day is not time for school and time to dedicate to yourself and have some free time that you can enjoy. Okay, so we just set up our timetable so we know where we need to be and when. Now we are setting up a due date tracker for the semester so we know what we need to do, so no one is scrambling at the last minute to get assignments done, unless that's your thing and you like to work under pressure. This is actually very modeled off of the original bullet journal method, Future Log. I actually don't like using the original future log setup in my bullet journal as a future log. I like to use something else, but when it comes to tracking assignments, I find that the future log setup is really, really great. For this spread, I decided to use 2 pages to write down all of my due dates for the semester, so each month had half a page. But if you have a lot of stuff going on, feel free to take a full page for each month. As long as you have enough room to write in all your due dates, that is the most important part when making this spread. I'm choosing to letter the months of the semester in calligraphy, but for any of these spreads, if you want to change it up and calligraphy isn't your thing, feel free to use your regular handwriting, some cursive, maybe even some stamping. As long as you have the name of the months on the page and you know which month has which assignments, you are all good to go. Under the title of each month, there is a spot on the right so you can write down all of the assignments you have going on, and then on the left, I included a mini calendar. I thought this would be really helpful as a spot where you can fill in each number when you have an assignment due that day, and then that will also let you see how much you have going on each week, so that if you have, for example, a ton of midterms going on week 6, because I know I went through that a couple times, you can mentally and emotionally prepare for it, along with, of course, preparing for the midterm from a studying perspective. I find by having all of my assignments written in one spread like this, it's a lot easier for me to see not only what's on my plate, but also what I need to start preparing for maybe a bit farther in advance because I have other stuff going on the same week as that thing. A big lesson I had to learn in my undergrad was how to juggle multiple assignments and projects at once. I'm not very good at focusing on multiple things at the same time, so for me, I had to learn how to do things a bit earlier than I wanted to so that I'd be able to finish it earlier and then get started on working on something else so I could finish that in time. Oh, and I also want to mention for the mini calendars, instead of going in with my regular 0.5 Muji gel pen, I'm going in with a 0.3 fine liner. This is the Staedtler pigment liner, but any fine liner or felt tip pen will work. The reason why I'm using this type of pen for the mini calendar is because I know I'm going to be highlighting the little boxes or the little calendar dates with a marker, and I don't really want them to bleed, so using a fine liner is going to prevent your marker from bleeding all over the page, and it's just going to look a bit cleaner. So another thing I thought of for this spread was to include the numbers of each week of the semester. I also went in and wrote an F beside finals weeks, which I thought would just be a helpful way to see kind of the full view of when the semester starts and ends. So here is what the final due date tracker spread looks like. I've put in a couple mock assignments for you so you can kind of see how it would look, but if I were filling out the spread for myself, it would be a lot fuller, trust me on that. But enough about assignments and midterms and all of that stuff that is not the most fun, admittedly, to do. Let's move on to the last spread for our semester bullet journal setup, which is our textbook list. Now, I know textbooks can be really expensive and definitely a bit of a financial stress for people, so I wanted to create this spread so you could have all of the information in one place and also be able to track how much each type of book costs so you can figure out what is the best deal you can get on every textbook, so hopefully you can save a bit of money. I know in my undergrad, I was able to save money on some secondhand books, but for other books that I had to buy new, I kind of had to pay full price for them. So in this spread, I have a spot for you to write down the course, the textbook you need, the edition, because if you buy the wrong edition, then you have to buy another book, and that's not fun, I've done that. And you also have a space to write down the types of textbooks are available, paper, online with access code, and then beside that, you can write the price for each type of textbook. I also used the last little right-hand side space to make a little to-buy list where I could write down my final list of textbooks that I want to buy, and then when I'm shopping in the bookstore, I have my list ready with me to get all of my textbooks so I can just go in there and get my books and not have to go back when the line is really long because everyone is doing their textbook shopping. Okay, now we are getting into the segment of this video where I'm going to be showing you a monthly and a weekly bullet journal setup for students. So we just finished setting up our spreads for the semesters. We have our timetable ready so we know where we need to be for class. We have our due date list so we know what we need to do and when we need to do it. And then we have our textbook list so we know what books we need to read. And the reason why I wanted to set up those spreads first is because these monthly spreads are really great to use in addition to those semester setups that you already created. In the next spreads, which are a monthly setup, I will be referencing back to the semester spreads so I can show you how to transfer information between these spreads to be organized and productive and just kind of be on top of those due dates and knowing when to start working on assignments. This spread that I'm working on right now is the quote page, which is the cover of it's going to be for September because that's when my semester starts, but the cover of my monthly setup. This is one of my favorite quotes by Alan Cohen, and it says, "There is virtue in work, there is virtue in rest. Use both, overlook neither." And this is my anthem song for my school. I find that if I'm not careful, I can just work all day, and that is definitely my downfall. So just remembering to have some balance and make sure that I'm taking time for work but also taking time for rest is something that's important for me to remember. I also wanted to mention while making this spread the importance of figuring out how much work you want to put into your bullet journal setup and how decorative or minimal you want it to be. I think any style of bullet journaling is great as long as it works for you. So think about if making a decorative journal is going to be a really great artistic outlet and is going to calm you down, or maybe creating something more minimal is going to really calm you down and relax you, like I know it relaxes me, and just kind of help reduce the stress in an already busy time. Anyway, that was just a little tidbit I wanted to mention. Getting back on track, now that I have my cover page done, I am now moving into my monthly calendar spread. This is a similar spread to what I normally do when I plan out my monthly calendar, but this one is a bit more tailored towards students, so there are a couple things that are different. If you want to see how this spread looked this month and how it kind of normally looks, I would recommend checking out my August plan with me. The main difference between that spread and this spread is that the column on the right in my usual spread is for goals, and for this spread I switched it up and made it a section for tracking due dates throughout the month. I will explain that in a little bit though. Let's get into what I'm doing right now, which is my monthly vertical calendar. I've always been a big fan of the vertical calendar because I like the way I'm able to visualize my dates for the month. They're also really quick to set up. All you have to do is write the day of the month all the way down the page, and then one box to the right of that, you write the day of the week that corresponds to the date of the month. I also like to draw a horizontal line between Sunday and Monday so I can divide up the weeks, and this is just a great way for me to know when my schedule might be a bit more booked up and when might be a good time for me to fit someone in when I have a bit more free space to do so. One little hack that I like to use on my monthly calendars for this spread and also my usual monthly spread is drawing the horizontal line across both pages. This extends my monthly vertical calendar, and this gives me a bit more room to write in dates because sometimes with these vertical calendars it can be hard to fit everything in. In the remaining 2/3 of the second page, I wrote the title due, and this is going to be a spot for me to list what is due that month. How I would fill in this section is I would flip back to my due date tracker to see what's going on that month, and then I would transfer those due dates into this section on my monthly calendar. I like to write my due dates with the date it's due in the top left corner, a spot for a check mark across from that on the right, and then the name of the item below that. I'm a really big fan of using check marks so that I can check off assignments as I hand them in. This is just a really great morale booster during the month, and also a really great way to keep track of what assignments you've finished and which assignments you still need to do. Now, the next spread is like the partner in crime for the monthly calendar, and this is the monthly task list and notes page. This spread is pretty similar to how I would normally set it up. I always like to use the page on the left for my task list and the page on the right as a space for notes. And then at the bottom of that page, I also like to save some room to list out my accomplishments that month. Maybe you want to change it up and use it as a section for a to-buy list or a grade tracker, or really whatever you need to keep track of that month and kind of list out would work. I'm a big fan of using the Alistair method in my task lists. I have a full video explaining how to use the Alistair method and what it is, but essentially what you do is you have a column for each week of the month, and I note these by writing the first Monday of the week, so the 1st, 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th are the Mondays of September, and then you can essentially put your task dot under the column of that week that you need to do that item. So, for example, I had that quiz during the first week of September on the 1st. So under the first column 1, which is for the first week of September, I wrote prep for the infectious disease quiz. So when I'm checking my monthly task list, I know that on the 31st, I need to make sure I'm studying for that quiz and preparing. This is a really great list to use if you struggle with allocating and scheduling tasks in your bullet journal. I found I really struggled with that before I discovered this method, and this was just a really good way to sit down and plan out when I wanted to do my work during the month at the beginning of the month versus trying to figure it out as I went and getting kind of busy certain weeks because I hadn't thought about doing some stuff in advance. Here's just an example of something I would write in the notes section. I would write anything down here, but some things that are helpful is writing what kind of stuff your tests are on so you know what to study. That's always a good one. So right here I'm writing the weeks of class my Mafia test is on and what things are excluded. Fun fact, I actually took a Mafia studies class in my undergrad. Now that we have the calendar and the task list done, we are moving on to probably the most exciting spread. I don't know, I just think this one is so cool, and it was really helpful for me when I had a lot of assignments due at the end of the semester in my first year of my master's, and that was having a projects overview spread. Just like all the other spreads in this video, this one is really easy to set up. All you need to do is write the title at the top of the page, and once you've created your title, then you just have to go in and create a timeline across the page horizontally. Because I have a bit of a smaller size notebook, I can't write all 30 days across the page, but if you have a bit of a bigger notebook and can do that, that is great, and I recommend doing that if possible. I spaced out the numbers so that there's a number every other box, so there's a space in between each one, and this just makes it easier when I'm writing out my timeline. Here's an example of what it actually looks like. I find by delegating certain days to reviewing certain chapters or weeks of work on a test, it's a really great way to stay on track, especially if you have a lot of stuff going on. Then you can make sure that you're going to be meeting all of your deadlines for all of your assignments, even though they might be overlapping and you might have a lot of stuff due at the same time. In the last corner, because I had a bit of room since my timeline goes over onto the second part of the page, I wrote up next in my calligraphy, and I was thinking this could be a good section to write some upcoming assignments for the next month, just so they're on our radar and we're not forgetting about stuff we have to do later on. Alright, and now we have come to the final spread. I know, this video has been jam-packed with bullet journal spreads, and it might be a lot, but I wanted to give you guys a complete system that you could work with if that's what you want to do, or just grab a spread here and there if that suits you better. But what I'm doing now is I'm moving from my monthly setup into a great weekly setup for students. Essentially, I use the first page on the left as a to-do list with the Alistair method, just like we did in our monthly task list, and then I use the remaining 3 pages for every day of the week. Each day of the week takes up half of a page vertically, and I mark these out by writing the name of the week at the top. The only 2 days that don't take up half a page are Saturday and Sunday. They take up half a page together, so each of them are a quarter, and I like to do this so that I force myself to do less work on the weekend. Also, I don't need as much room because I usually don't have as much stuff going on. I'm going in now and writing the date of the month at the top of the date of the week. I really like creating a timeline or a time ladder in my weekly spread because it's a really great way to see what you have going on during the day. You can block in your classes if you want, so you can see when you have time to do work and study. And it's also a really great way to write in dates and appointments at the beginning of the week so you can see everything that's going on. If you find that daily logging in your bullet journal isn't something that works well for you because you can't see what's coming up during the week, having something like this where you can write in your dates at the beginning of the week versus as you go might be a really good fit for you. For Saturday and Sunday, because I don't have room for the full 8 to 9 p.m., I just write the letters M, A, and E, which stand for morning, afternoon, and evening, so I have some room to write in stuff in case there's anything going on, but I usually don't have too much on my schedule, so this kind of fits everything I need it to. I'm then drawing a horizontal line at the bottom of the page. I like to write my workouts underneath this because I found in university and in life, moving around and working out consistently is something that really works well for me. So now I'm showing you how I would fill in this spread. First, I go in and write down the classes that I have that week. Then I flip back to my monthly calendar and check what due dates I have that week, and I write those at the very top of the page between the day of the week and the time ladder. Now I'm going into my to-do list, and under the Monday column, I'm making a task dot because on Monday, I want to prepare for the quiz that I have on Tuesday. I find that this task list is really helpful because you can plan ahead when you want to do stuff, which is really helpful when you have a lot of stuff going on as a student. And that has brought us to the end of this student bullet journal setup. I know there was a lot of stuff to go through, so if you want to go back to any part and rewatch it, I will include timestamps so you can more easily jump between stuff. But here is what we created today. We have a couple semester spreads, such as a timetable, a due date tracker, and a textbook list. Then we made a student monthly bullet journal setup. We finished up with a weekly spread that I think is great if you want to see everything going on in your week. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. And if you have any questions or want to tell me about what you're doing in this upcoming fall semester, let me know below. I'd love to chat. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video on Saturday. Bye.